Here's to Your Health is presented by American Medical Center.
All right, welcome to another episode of Here's to Your Health. Joining me, as always, we have Dr. Kelly, and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today, Dr. Kelly. And I got it right this time. It's Dr. Kelly. It's not Dr. Neal. So I just...
Too formal.
And what we wanted to talk about today is something that we have touched on in our segments before with online resources, things that are available online or remotely. And I'm talking about telehealth. And so what I wanted to do today is dedicate an entire episode to telehealth or remote medical care, or whatever you may want to call it. I think telehealth is the broad term. And it's more prevalent now than ever before with the pandemic. It did kind of force people to stay at home and, sometimes not feeling comfortable going out and waiting in line at a facility. So telehealth, there's definitely a lot of advantages there, but when dealing with patients and the medical science, there's also a lot of limitations. So today we just kind of wanted to cover telehealth and some general questions that people might have. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, you deal with a lot of Medicare patients, and they do skew a little bit older. And so technology, maybe not a strong suit, but the resources that you've talked about are easily accessible. So we have actually sat down and had this conversation, and you gave me the resources. So let's go ahead and start there with that online warehouse, you like to call it.
Online warehouse. Okay. Can you remind me what that online?
Well, the information, when I go and visit you for my wellness check, all the information, you put it there into the computer, and then I can access that as well.
Absolutely. It's our electronic record. And the beautiful thing is that Medicare dumps data, like I call it a data dump, every 30 days. So it's kind of like on a billing cycle. So that's a little bit, you're right. It's a little bit challenging for those that are a little bit technically challenged. Let's say my 80 and 90-year-olds, and certainly sometimes myself. And so when you're cracking the nut of telemedicine, it's a little daunting. And so with the inception of the 5G, like our cell phones and stuff, that's telemedicine was an easy breach to see us as providers on the phone, or some people Skype or FaceTime. So that was okay. I mean, you figure that they like to spend a lot of time on Facebook. I'm not one for Facebook, but they spend a lot of time that. So breaching the conversation virtually was quite easy. When you give them their password to go into their own electronic system, they said, "Oh no, we don't. I don't need to know that." But yet the family members are all over it because they can message their provider, they can message their team, their CCM managers team. They like that. But going back to what your original saying is that telemedicine has, going back in the history books, we've had telemedicine since the 1960s. So when you remember, I'm not going to tell you how old I was, when the NASA, when that all happened in the 60s with the NASA evolution, we had telemedicine back then. Now, was it vogue? No, but that was the inception of telemedicine, was in the 1960s. So then fast forward, to telepsych, and then I have to remember the dates, in the 1990s is when CMS or Medicare gave us codes. So we kind of knew something was up, that when they gave us the codes, they didn't have any figures or reimbursement attached to it. So we knew, okay, coming attractions that maybe we were about to do that, and that was kind of going to be exciting. So we had to, as providers, psych up and get ready for that. Unfortunately, with COVID, we were now allowed to put that into play, and then we get, which we're very excited, we get reimbursed for our work, and so that was a great thing. The good thing about the telemedicine, it gives us the ability to see our patients, have the patients be connected to us, The families get a chance to be connected. They get to shelter at home. So that's all the good things. The downside is that I can't listen to the heart and lungs for obvious reasons, but I can actually see, okay, is grandma being in distress? So we get to elevate the sense of acuity there. And then I think grandma, our tender folks can certainly use the phone to either call us or say, hey, there's a problem. But as far as electronic record, I'm not asking them to go into the electronic record. So there's definitely some pros and cons. Telemedicine has been there since the 1960s, and we've seen that evolution. And we're happy. And I think, to be honest, it's here to stay. Interesting about providers, I actually like telemedicine, but I think here at AMC, you love it or you hate it.
Right.
And I don't think there's a lot that are actually in the middle of the road.
Well, there are, I'm sure, a lot of doctors that know I do it, this way. I meet them physically. I sit there and I do it the way it was taught back in the 1600s. That's what way we're going to do it. But then there's others that obviously, learning and just using the new technology to our advantage. And I wonder if maybe in the future, now we have all these, the GPS, the heart monitors, the Fitbits and all that. I wonder if we could incorporate that into, you mentioned heart rate, things like that. I wonder if we'll get to that point, because now it's readily available to the public. It's not just some NASA astronauts who are getting, the most funding in the world. So, right. It's available and it's part of the Medicare, what you do. So is there any extra cost to the people?
No, no. Medicare takes care of all of it. Absolutely. There's no cost to the patient. It's actually a beautiful thing because we still stay connected. They still stay connected to us. It's the right thing to do. And it was the right thing for Medicare to now allow that reimbursement to us as providers and to move forward. There's very few things that happened that is good out of the COVID, to be honest. And this was one thing that was, it was on the silver lining.
Well, necessity, the mother of invention. So when we're forced to stay home and do all these things remotely, I mean, we saw all these programs and apps pop up that we can use. And when you're talking about someone's health, their long-term health, it's important for them to really take ownership of that, and having access to their information on the online resources, doctor's visits, chats, I think is important. And people really need to get involved instead of just, well, my doctor, they do all their doctor stuff and it's up to them. So I know you encourage your patients to really look into the online resources and to get involved with their own health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it also, when they message me, they realize they also have my personal cell. I said, okay, just use it for emergency only, and I'm in bed by 9. So.
Or when you're just trying to set up an interview for their TV show.
Number. So it's like, yeah. So it's a good thing. It's like when I taught my mother how to text me. Oh my goodness, she doesn't need to text me every 15 minutes. And then we had that conversation. And then she goes, oh, okay. All the emojis. Right.
So
it's learning curve. But once they get it, they realize, oh my goodness, it's in their tool house. And it just gives them confidence. That gives them a sense of accomplishment, and they're okay. And that's all they needed. If we can relate to them and vice versa, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it really is, and it's only going to benefit everyone involved. And these websites, the one that you gave me when we sat down and had my wellness check, that's when you gave me all that information. So everyone that goes in to see their doctor should ask about this, correct?
Yes, and it's my fault if I don't provide it preemptively, but absolutely, there's a whole wealth of information.
So those that have not looked into it, is there just a website they go to and then input their name, or would they need to get all of that information from you?
We need to get that information because each patient has their own username and password to go into their specific electronic record. And in that electronic record, then they're given a case manager that is specific to them, provided that they meet that criteria. That criteria, again, is if they have 2 or more chronic conditions. That chronic conditions are conditions that are not just going to go away tomorrow. So it wouldn't be, let's say, a respiratory issue. It'd be all of us. Arthritis would be one, or hypertension, diabetes. Obesity can certainly go away, and we always encourage that. But it would be situations that are not going to go away tomorrow.
Right. And it benefits everyone involved. And you mentioned a lot of the benefits of telehealth, and for having a meeting with someone, if you've sat down with them and physically gone with the exam and checked them out. And then periodically, would you recommend checking in virtually with your patients? You can't get certain things, as you said, listening to the heart, but you can kind of get a good sense of their state of mind, their overall well-being, their quality of life. Do you get that sense when you talk to someone remotely?
The best thing, I get a sense of them, because I get a sense of their mind when they're here, but I get a sense of their environment. I get a sense of kind of the chickens in the background. I get a sense of their socioeconomic elements. I get a sense of what's going on around them. That is, I don't need to have their house all cleaned up. What gets me what I love is I get to meet them where they are, and that's where I love when I get to meet patients in the group homes. I love it because I get to meet them where they are. And so when I see them via telemedicine, I see them where they are, and the whole clan. It may be grandkids that are playing around their feet. It may be all the sisters and brothers. That's what endears me the most, because right or wrong, they're sometimes limited with the amount of people or clan that they come into the clinic. I personally believe the more the better. 2 sets of ears are always better than 1. And so when I see them remotely, I've got everyone, around them, and they're all asking questions, they're interactive, and that's what I love the best.
And you need that. You've mentioned that before, that you need that other support team in place to remind grandma to take the meds, to remind grandma to do the treatments.
Drink water.
Exactly. So it is important to have family members or guardians or loved ones involved in this process. And telehealth, telemedicine, it just really opens up the door for everyone to be involved and to be on the same page. It helps to make your job a little bit easier, I'm sure.
It does. And I think you highlighted a difference that people may not know. Telemedicine is different than telehealth. Telehealth is when they really never went through the brick and mortar. Telemedicine is we've already established that relationship and they came through the brick and mortar. Some people don't understand that there's a little bit of the nuances. So just to let you know, and I know myself included have blurred those lines because people don't necessarily know the difference. But with regards to going back to the original statement, I actually like telemedicine. I like that element because I get to see and interact with more people that I even knew that were maybe not necessarily in their lives. And I end up talking more than I usually should.
Well, there's a lot of information to get out there.
Right now,
you've stressed that quite a bit, that there's a lot of information out there, but people need to go out and look for it and ask about it, because when they go and have your wellness check, all this information is there. They just need to, be pointed in the right direction, get their username and password so they can take an active role in their health, because that's key. And again, it makes your job a lot easier. So everyone that is on Medicare, if you have not had your wellness check, Dr. Kelly has stressed that to get that every year. And when you're in there next time, ask them about the telehealth, ask them about these online resources, not just for you, but for your family's sake, so everyone can be involved, like I said. Dr. Kelly, anything else before we let you go get back to work?
Thank you. Actually, one that we didn't necessarily talk about, and I just remembered, annual wellnesses can actually be done virtually.
Oh, okay.
That they don't have to, because I don't necessarily need to put my hands on the patient. There's so many resources that that can be done virtually that it's not necessarily part of a physical exam. It can be done completely virtually.
So you think someday eventually we'll have virtual EKGs?
Yeah, absolutely. We're, when we used to think that Star Trek, and I brought that up earlier, maybe I'm dating myself, it was all kind of blurred and futuristic. I think we're a lot farther than we give ourselves credit for. And it's kind of exciting and scary at the same time. But I do think virtual medicine is here to stay.
I absolutely agree with you.
Embrace it and realize, okay, we need to step up to the plate and do more with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And again, this is all just another little facet in the quality of life of your patients. So we appreciate all that you do. Dr. Kelly, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Good afternoon. Bye-bye.